Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is the most disturbing videos on the internet today. Let's dive in.
It was all written about, no question whatsoever. They wrote about these things happening, things turn into stone. Look at this. This guy, I've shown this 100 times. Leg, that's the tendon that runs down the leg. That's the blood at the bottom of his leg. This is literally his kneecap. This is the fleshy area. It turns to stone. The fleshy part turns to stone. Blood and the fluidy, wet stuff doesn't. It stays inside. And it will leak out eventually, just like this one is. This is as strange as it gets. And I am just as baffled as anybody. But look at this. What the hell is that? There's something with like spongy looking legs on it. And I don't have any idea what that is. And this guy is saying, what did you do to me? Look at him, look at his face.
He is saying that. What else is he saying? He's looking up like, why me? Something happened. A giant Medusa beam, petrification beam. I don't know. Drop your comments and thoughts below.
And that's what they said. And they were amazed when this stuff happened to him. Right at the very first words, he says, I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Now listen to this. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. Now listen to this. There's a great variety among the types of transformations that take place, from humans to innate objects like the river, constellations, turn them into animals, from forms like ants and fungi into mushrooms and humans and they used to call them alchemy and alchemists. Just insane stuff. I don't know how to say it. It's just beyond what the normal human mind can even conceive of. If there are any friends here, turn your face away. And he held up the Gorgon's head. As he prepared to throw his deadly javelin, he was frozen like a marble statue. In the act, Empix, next to him, thrust his sword straight at the heart of the courageous descendant of Licinius, and in thrusting, his right hand stiffened, without movement, this way of that. But Nilus, who falsely claimed that he was born of the Nile, with its 7 mouths, his shield engraved with its 7 streams, part gold, part silver, cried, Perseus, see the sources of my people? It will be a great consolation to you to take with you in death to the silent shadows the knowledge of having fallen to so noble a man. The last echo of his voice was cut off in mid-flight, and you might believe his mouth still wished to speak, though it was no longer pervious to words. He turned to stone and said, ah! Eric's
He was slashed and now
rebuked them, saying, lack of courage, not the power of the Gorgon, freezes you. Rush in with me and knock this youth and his magic weapon to the ground. He had started his rush, but the floor held his feet fast, and there he stayed, unmoving stone, a fully armored statue. This is the key, a fully armored statue. They don't turn naked. Everything goes to stone. Now listen to this. Phineas is turned to stone. They all deserved the punishment they suffered except one of Perseus's warriors. While he was fighting on his side, Acontius saw the Gorgon's head and took the shape of hardened stone. Astyages struck him with his long sword, thinking he was still alive, and the blade gave a high-pitched ringing noise. Ting! While Astyages stood there amazed. The same power transformed him, and he remained there with a wondering look on his marble face. It would take a long time to tell the names of the middle ranks of men. 200 bodies survived the fight. 200 bodies were turned to stone. this is how they turned him to stone. Now, how it happened, I don't know. I can't, for the life of me, I can't imagine looking at something and that would cause you to turn to stone. Somehow that thing is, something was coming out of it. Now, these guys that were next to the statue said they can feel some kind of presence. They can feel some kind of energy. It was all written about, no question whatsoever.
Huge shout out to Mud Fossils, the OG. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button because we do these videos every single day. And I'd love to see you tomorrow. So let's get straight back into the action.
Got a minute for a story?
Sure. But I mean, even before you tell it, I can tell you that you don't have long to live.
Well, that's kind of the gist of the story. I'm in my 50s. My daughter is in her 20s. She has no children. I have no grandchildren. One of my hobbies, I have a little fleet of kind of vintage motorcycles and classic cars, all in various states of disrepair that I drive around during the summer. I always told her, look, when I'm gone, you can do anything you want with these cars and motorcycles. The only thing is I've got this 1931 Model A that's been in the family since the 50s. My dad and I restored it. Please keep that. And then I've got this little 1972 Honda XL250 that was my first big motorcycle, and it is just like in showroom condition. So those are the only two that, that I'd like to see stay in the family.
Yes.
So during the summer, I like to get up early and before I go into the office, and I'll stop in at Starbucks for a cup of coffee and get ready for the day. Usually, so second week of August, I think it was the Wednesday, the 12th. I am sitting in Starbucks having a cup of coffee. I'd ridden my little Honda 250 down in that morning, and a fellow comes in and he says, "Hey, whose little Honda is that outside?" And I said, "Hey, it's mine." And he said, "Hey, I've got one, that's just like that." Mm. And so he comes over to the table and he stands there and we chat for a few minutes. You know how sometimes you just run into somebody and you just have this rapport with them. And this guy looked like he was maybe in his late 20s, early 30s. And we talked about cars and motorcycles. And in this short conversation we had, he also mentioned, he said, "My grandfather left me a Model A and this bike." And I said, "Oh, that's a coincidence because I've got a Model A as well." And I'm thinking, God, I had to get to know this guy.
Guy of my soul brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that that gets their hands greasy on these vehicles together.
Yes.
So we talked for a few minutes, and I was going to go get a refill, and my cup is empty. So I stand up at the side table and I said, "Hey, can I get you a cup of coffee?" Because he hadn't gone to get one. And he said, "No." He said, "I don't have much time." He said, I really need to be going." He said, "But I need to tell you something." He said, "And I know this is going to sound crazy, and I can't tell you how I know." He started to get all serious, looking right in my eyes, and his tears started to well up in his eyes. And he said, "Do not go to Alaska in October." And I probably go. I'm a geologist. I go work all over the western U.S. And I go to Alaska 5, 6, 7 times a year. Didn't have a trip planned, but and I kind of laughed. And he said, "I can't tell you how I know this, but I just need to tell you, do not go." And and tears were in his eyes, and he reached out and grabbed around me and gave me a big hug, and he whispered something while he was hugging me, and I was so kind of taken aback. And you know how sometimes when you hear something and it takes a little while I didn't understand what he said, and he let go of me and said, "Remember that." And he turned and strode towards the door, and I saw him go out the door and past the windows, and I sat there for about 10 seconds processing. What did he say? And suddenly it came to me. He said, "Love you, Grandpa." And
oh my God! Whoa. Oh my God!
And so and it's like I took off out the door and around the corner, and just as I rounded the door around the corner, I kind of saw this flash, and it was it's like 6:45. It's early in the morning. And, and it could have been like the sun glinting off a windshield or something, but when I came around the corner, there was no one there. And there weren't any cars. Have you got a minute for a story?
Sure. But sure. Even before you tell.
I like that story a lot. A time traveler went back and said, "Thank you, Grandpa, for all those vintage motorcycles." He loved his grandpa. How cool is that?
The Cal Orco dinosaur track site in Bolivia is a truly remarkable discovery. This site near the city of Sucre features an almost vertical limestone wall that stretches over 1.5 kilometers and rises about 80 meters high, known as the dinosaur dance floor. The wall is etched with more than 5,000 individual footprints made by at least 8 different species of dinosaurs that roamed the area approximately 68 million years ago.
What, dinosaurs are just climbing the wall like Spider-Man now? What's going on?
There are a few things that make me stop and take a breath. And that there are a few things that make me stop and take a breath. And that book is one of them. Somebody threw a Hail Mary almost 1,000 years in the future. It's an illuminated manuscript, which means there's gold foil throughout the book to illuminate certain pictures. Very different from almost any other Bible written in the time. But the weirdest thing in the whole book is that picture, not his face. It presents God as an architect, which was kind of a weird stance at the time. 700-ish years later, William Blake brought this back with those two paintings up there. What's weird is the ball. So if you imagine that you're looking out to the edge of the universe from above Earth, that is what it would look like. This is called a logarithmic picture of the universe. Image is set up by perception. Music people, this is how equalizers work. So that image is set up like an equalizer, like low, mids, and highs. In terms of how your eyes see, using that. Golden ratio is perception. It's how that's how you hear. There's a golden ratio in your ear. There's also one in the cone cell in your eyeball, and is why the golden ratio is called the golden ratio, because it spirals right into gold. It's a rule for all of the universe. So if we're above Earth looking out, the logarithmic picture is how our eyes would see it if we could see that. Now imagine that I took a picture of the whole thing in 360 degrees, and then we get something that looks kind of like this. This is everything we currently know about what's in our universe from Earth's perspective. And this photo gets really, really detailed. It was made by using data from all kinds of telescopes and instruments from around the world and compiled into something that we can see. So all of combined might of humanity made that image with our current technology now. It's pretty amazing. It's beautiful. Now here's what happens when we color grade it. Here's what happens when I put it next to the bubble. Look at the star placement. Look at the lobes around the yellow part in the center. Look at the voids. Look at the black space. Look at the little tentacles around the edge. Almost 1,000 years ago. How? I want to remind you that this is during the Dark Ages.
How interesting. I wonder what all that red stuff surrounding the wall of that universe, if I could even say that.
Grand Canyon, I was researching if the ancient Egyptians were in the North Rim. There's a mountain there called Mount Isis that the government named Mount Isis. I didn't even know that you weren't allowed to fly through the Grand Canyon. After my flight was about 2 hours. And after my flight, I landed and there was a park ranger that threatened me. I pointed to the parking lot, the North Rim parking lot. I said, there's no signs anywhere that says you can't fly paramotor. I flew for about 2 hours. My main area was Mount Isis. If you zoom into Mount Isis, you can see it kind of has the shape of a temple. Even it looks like it has a doorway with a hieroglyph of a duck on the side of it.
Really?
You can actually see a door, a square door. About 3 miles back towards the rim, there is a sphere that sticks up.
Yeah.
And it has a bird head on top of it. It's carved. It's really ornate. And then it has like the wings fast back, and it looks like someone put charcoal in grooves of the wings to show detail of the wings. And it's about the size of 6 vehicles. It's big. And you can see it from a distance. It looks like it was created to where if the water level was higher in the Grand Canyon and ships were going through, it would show, the strength and power of the Egyptians. It looks like a sphinx. There does appear to be a sphinx on this temple. There are other carvings, and they look like someone had shot at them, maybe with a helicopter or something. Yeah, there was definitely bullet holes in a lot of the temple surrounding. About 200 feet down, there's carvings of pharaohs. There's carvings of cats. You would have to be about 200 yards back to actually really get a good view of what you're looking at. I don't know who they would be for. Maybe ancient aliens or something, maybe. We're talking 20,000 years ago. I don't think the water level would be high enough to even see these carvings. And it makes me wonder who they were for and who put them there. It would have to be someone in like a flying machine, most likely. So I flew right next to him. I saw a leg sticking out. I flew right over a leg, and then I saw another leg. There's one that looks like a sphinx of a woman, and you can see the headdress, and then there's black stripes on the headdress that goes up, and the eyes are green, and it's beautiful. It was mostly
A green-eyed statue in the Grand Canyon? Where did he fly exactly? The no-fly zone? What are they exactly hiding in the Grand Canyon?
Are blown-up photographs of something. Taken with an ordinary Instamatic in July last year by 15-year-old Michael McDermott on the right, watched by friend Christy Hannon.
You had the camera in your hands, is that right? Yeah.
They've been through the mill of interrogation, local reporters, friends, parents, and they stick to their story. It was real, they say. Some strange flying object.
Which way were you pointing with the camera? I was about to take a picture of Christy.
Professor Wayman met them last July in Dublin, and he was sufficiently impressed to agree to analyse the photos for this programme after a filmed reenactment of the alleged event.
Yeah, I was about that distance. Okay. A bit further. About like that, yeah. Okay. And then what? Christy noticed the object coming in. Could you reconstruct the sequence of photographs with timing as far as possible that you might have taken them? No. Yeah, try my best. You're running commentary. I took a picture as it came over. Yes. And I followed the object around the field. Yeah. The object took a figure of 8 maneuver over us. Then the object about here, the object stopped still, and I tripped and I fell on the ground. While on the ground, I took photographs directly up over the object, and I got up then.
He was putting in work hitting those different angles, wasn't he?
I took some more photographs, about 2 or 3 more photographs of the object. Yes. And the object head off in a sort of a curved direction, very, very fast. What's the cloud about like this? There was a broken cloud. There was a broken cloud, wasn't it? That's what you told me before. July day. We had the object in view for about 6 minutes.
Mainly amusement, because obviously they're very ignorant of the subject. They haven't read any books, and they've got completely closed minds, and they just don't want to know. They just...
My man got a perm, don't he?
Don't want to know. They're very small-minded people who obviously don't know what's going on around them, who never read anything at all. So, all you can do is feel sorry for people like that.
There are blown-up photographs of something.
There's stuff out there. I seen something last night. It was like a green streak.
Discovered in 2020 in Thailand's Pu Lanka National Park, Naka Cave hides a serpent-shaped rock. Unique for its python-like scales, this 100,000-year-old wonder...
I mean, I've probably seen this 3 or 4 times, but let's be honest, it does look like a snake.
...shifts with erosion, nature's mystery alive. Sacred to locals, its Naga legend endures, a timeless marvel still unfolding.
A giant petrified snake. We need to knock its head off and see the entrails.
They don't want you to know this. The key to understanding humanity's ancient past is hidden deep within Gobekli Tepe. The mainstream date this archaeological site in Turkey back to 9600 BCE, but there is more evidence than not suggesting it dates back even further, possibly tens of thousands of years. Gobekli Tepe is a massive complex of intricately carved stone pillars arranged in circles. These pillars are covered in mysterious symbols and depictions of animals. The craftsmanship and scale of the site suggests extremely profound knowledge and sophisticated skill. Gobekli Tepe was more than just a temple. It was ancient center of knowledge, like the mystery schools of ancient Egypt. The layout of the site aligns with celestial events, and it was used to track celestial movements. But it gets even darker. The site was intentionally buried. It was deliberately covered up around the year 8000 BCE. The builders of Gobekli Tepe foresaw an impending catastrophic event and decided to preserve the site by burying it. By doing so, they hoped to protect their sacred knowledge and ensure it would survive for the future generations. Excavation of the site has been permanently halted, which raises the question of what are they trying to hide from us? They don't want you to know this.
They stay trying to hide something from us. Let all the information go from the Smithsonian.
This ancient Egyptian game, known as hounds and jackals, is nearly 4,000 years old, also called the game of 58 holes. It's believed to have been played in a way similar to snakes and ladders. This ancient Egyptian game.
Look at the detail. Look at the hooves for the stand.
So you find this specific iconography around the world. In the book of Revelation, you find it as well. The Nagas, the seven-headed serpent protected Buddha. Medieval tapestries, pretty specific. The Gnostics, in fact, have their own seven-headed dragon. That's from the book of Revelation. You have on the other side of the Atlantic, once again, the god Kukulkan, who has the seven heads, the seven-headed serpent. Siberian.
I never heard of Kukulkan having 7 heads, for the record. This, what he's showing now, this is crazy.
You find it as a shamanic seven-headed being. Even King Arthur fights the seven-headed dragon. The dragons and the serpents were the wisdom bringers. The druids were called the serpents. In fact, St. Patrick drove the serpents out of Ireland, although there's no snakes in Ireland. In 1200 BC, he destroyed the old pagan belief system. So you find this specific icon.
Every time I see those 7-headed dragons, nagas, whatever they are, it reminds me of those serpents that was on Godzilla, the 7-headed giant hydra, whatever it was called. Electrifying, flying in the storm cloud. Yeah, that one.
Did you guys hear what the James Webb Telescope just discovered?
Oh gosh.
You mentioned it yesterday, and I Googled it.
They said we have alien ships heading towards Earth at light speed.
Okay, what? What do you mean?
They are the size of cities, they said. And the only reason they're calling them alien ships is because they're on this one trajectory and then exactly turned towards Earth.
Oh gosh.
At light speed.
I mean, how long is it going to take for them to get there? How far away are they?
The prediction is time frame of these objects reaching Earth range from a couple of years to a couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's a good ratio. It's just a little.
So they said that these were they got images of it.
Yeah.
Heading at light speed, going, and then it course corrected towards Earth. So that's the only reason they're calling them ships.
And you wouldn't be able to predict how fast it could accelerate or decelerate if it was able to
course correct.
Yeah, you don't know what technology allowed us to do that.
So they said a couple years or a couple weeks.
Couple years or a couple weeks.
So this is what
2027.
This is what I'm on Snopes, and typically stuff like this is like it's not true. All it says is unfounded. So they're not saying it's not true.
This Dr. Doom is coming. They need the Avengers to stop him.
In the ceiling of an ancient temple, you can see these carvings. This is actually located in a dark area, and there are 5 gods. Hindu temples have thousands of carvings. What is special about yet another 5 deities carved on the ceiling? There is a surprise, a big surprise, because you can see these words here etched in Tamil language. Nivartikalai, Pratishtakalai, Vidyakalai, Shantikalai, Shantyaditakalai. Surprisingly, these are not names of Hindu gods. These are concepts of a very advanced philosophy called Panchakalai or Panchakala. This is not related to religion. This is related to philosophy. This information is found hidden in the ceiling of an ancient temple. This temple is called Tirupperundurai, which is more than 1,000 years old. Ancient Indian temples are not only about religion, they symbolize advanced concepts in our ancient temples. In the ceiling of an...
Shout out Pareen Mohan. Always with the exclusive ancient Indian technologies going on. I love it.
This is incredible.
So this is the documented moment of conception. And the sperm enters the egg, and there's this poof of light that comes off of it. Scientists are studying this, and they're looking at it, and they're like, okay, well, it looks like it's a release of zinc, a burst of zinc that comes off the egg, and it creates this appearance. But any way you slice it, they can't explain away that light happens when life happens.
This is incredible.
So this...
Any way you slice it, baby.
These are not what you think. These are terraced farms like you see in China, but they're in Peru. They were used to acclimatize crops to grow in high altitudes. They would plant them at the bottom so that they could grow them in Machu Picchu. But Machu Picchu is not the only city in the sky. And it was found like it was buried. Kind of like everything that we find that's before a certain date. This level of knowledge and expertise has been shown across multiple cultures across the globe. Certain things hide in plain sight, like Petra or Kailasa Temple in India, that are carved out of a rock face where you can make no mistake. There can be zero room for error.
Zero room for error. You chip too far on a rock, whoops, it's the whole thing's messed up. Kailasa Temple's definitely a mystery.
Why is this so big? Where the fuck is that? Why do these all look the same across the globe? Did they have tech? What was the tech? Where is the tech now?
I ask myself those questions every single day. What are they hiding from us?
A Russian scientist thinks he might have found the elixir of life.
It has a mechanism to prolong life. And taking into account the amount, the periods of time, forever. It has a mechanism to live forever.
In 2009, Dr. Anatoly Bruzhkov discovered a strain of bacteria in the Siberian permafrost. The bacteria, which was named Bacillus F, was 3.5 million years old and still alive in the permafrost. And he did what any sensible person would do. He injected it straight into his veins. Dr. Bruzhkov finished sequencing the Bacillus F gene code in 2015. By then, he had made another interesting discovery. That not only did the bacteria seem to be immune to aging, but they had a life-extending effect on every organism that it touched. When injected with it, female mice would continue to reproduce well into their old age. Crops exposed to it were more fast-growing and frost-resistant. The people of this town are even known to live longer, and they think it's because the Bacillus F is leaking into their water supply. To test the longevity effect firsthand, Dr. Bruzhkov then decided to inject himself with this ancient bacterium. It worked so well on Bruzhkov that his colleagues started calling it the elixir of life. 2 years after the injection, he reported needing far less sleep and feeling way more fulfilled on the shorter amount of sleep. He would work way longer hours without feeling cognitive decline or any tiredness whatsoever.
And to tell the truth, after I took it, I never had a flu for 2 years, at least for 2 years. So any cold, any type of the cold.
Whether it is an elixir of life or a strong placebo, Bacillus F is actually one of many strains of miracle bacteria found in the frozen tundra of Siberia. Another ancient Siberian species can apparently convert petroleum molecules into water, proving a potential solution for cleaning up oil spills. A Russian scientist thinks he might have found...
That seems like a risky way to find something out. I'm glad it worked out for him. For entertainment purposes only, don't believe anything you hear or see on this video. You made it this far, go ahead and drop Saturday Night Live as the code word in the comments. That lets me know that you're a real one for making it this far, and I just want to say thank you. It means the world to me. This was the most disturbing videos on the internet today. See you tomorrow.